Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Bills Roundtable, live Mondays and Thursdays at about 4:15-ish p.m. EST, of course, depending on how all we feel. The Buffalo Bills are facing off against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think this game is equally important for both squads since both teams have divisions to worry about. They both are either one game back from first place, one game and some change back from first place. So I think it's a bit more important than it has been in the past for just a regular season matchup. Regardless, we're excited to unpack everything you need to know about the game. Jake, how you doing, brother? Man, we missed you, dude.
Dan, I'm doing good, and I'm excited. Obviously, we got the World Series going on right now, but we have a big-time matchup on Sunday between the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills going head-to-head against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know the history there. These two teams, I mean, they've been at the top of the game for quite some time here. Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, they have the rings. They have the hardware to go with it. The Buffalo Bills, they don't have the rings to show for it, but these two teams are consistently in Super Bowl contention talks, and they're in a weird spot this year where they're both second in their division, and this game has so much meaning behind it. There's always so much meaning behind it, but these are two teams trying to claw their way back up to the top of their division. So it's going to be a big-time battle, a lot of intensity at Highmark Stadium on Sunday. Can't wait.
I love to hear it. And you're a Jays fan, right?
I am. Blue Jays.
Oh, man. Dude, one game away from glory. And so I know a lot of people were giving like the Bills organization shit for rooting for the Blue Jays. But my argument is the state of New York has been saying that we're not a real New York team. So I said, yeah, for sure. For sure, we're going to go with Toronto. So you don't even claim us. All right. Well, it's just the Jets and the Giants.
The thing is that the Blue Jays farm team, the Buffalo Bisons, I mean, they're in Buffalo. So
true.
There's a connection there. And where did the Blue Jays play during the pandemic? They played in Buffalo. So,
and what Kev is cringing right now since he's a Yankees fan.
No comment.
Zero, what's up?
Would you rather see the Dodgers win?
I'm cringing because we're talking about baseball. We got the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday.
That's what I'm talking about. What's up?
I'm dialed into. It's the best week of the year. It's become an annual tradition, a biannual tradition, a multi-time per year tradition. I can't find the scholarly way of saying that. I'm not that good off the top of my head, but this has become the best event of the year every year, and it's coming up this Sunday. And you mentioned it, Dan. This is an unprecedented meeting between these two, where they both now find themselves not at the top of their division, fighting for stuff that typically they're in the driver's seat of, right? Typically, these two teams are at the top of their division. You're feeling comfortable about them at least getting that done. What they do in the playoffs, of course, is, to be determined. But usually it's predetermined these two teams are going to win their division. Right now, that's not set in stone. This is what makes this game so much bigger, not only just because of the division, but, of course, because of the 1 seed. The odds to get the 1 seed dramatically change for the loser of this football game and, of course, dramatically change for the winner of this football game. So, in a way, it is about as much of a mid-season playoff type game as you can get. It always simulates a playoff type atmosphere and a playoff style game in itself, just with these two going against each other. I don't care if it's week 1 or if it is in the postseason. It's an awfully similar vibe. But there's more on the line in this one than there has been in years past. You're catching the Kansas City Chiefs right now who are on fire. They're really heating up. And luckily for us, the Bills just caught fire, it seemed, this past week after 2 consecutive losses. So you're getting these two teams coming in hot. You're getting these two quarterbacks who, despite the way Allen's played, according to the betting markets, these are your 2 MVP favorites right now. It just doesn't get better than this. And beyond just being a Bills fan, every time this game comes up, you have to sit back and soak in what this matchup is. We all grew up, or Dan, at least you and I, we grew up in the prime of our NFL experience watching Manning and Brady go toe-to-toe. This is what this has become, and it's not lost on me. Beyond just being a Bills fan, this is as good as it gets in sports, and we're going to be treated to yet another showdown between these two all-time greats on Sunday. Cannot wait.
It's going to be fireworks, indeed. Kev, what's going on, man?
No, just blasphemous at that baseball talk. But as we look forward, and I like what Z-Bot said, it's baseball, so obviously it's all blasphemous anyways. But as you look forward to this game, the 10th time, right? This is a true rivalry. The numbers are split. The numbers are right down the middle with most things. It's actually kind of crazy how similar these matchups end up being. And even on paper, analytically, this matchup is super similar as well. Everyone's saying how well the Chiefs are, but really still playing the Bills analytically are just as good in every single category. So it makes for actually a really strong football game. And are the Bills getting healthy at the right time? You had Palmer practice today. Will he suit up? We'll see. I think that's more of a next week kind of thing, probably for Miami. But right now, I think the team is getting healthy. They have their linebackers back with the Shaq Thompson looking like he'll be out, though. I think they'll go back to the usual starting linebackers in this game. And the DNs, it's truthfully one of the best Bills pass rushes we've seen. I think the Chiefs passing offense is as good as they've been in a while, in a long time since Tyreek Hill. But to counter that, can the Bills D-line actually do what it's supposed to do? Dan, as you posted, number one in pressure rate in the NFL from their defensive line. That's a change as well. So it's been a really good defensive line. They haven't needed it a ton this year, but we've seen it a lot. They disrupted Drake May. One of Drake May's worst games of the year was against the Buffalo Bills. So ultimately, I think that this is going to be a really pivotal matchup in terms of who wins this new KC passing offense that's really good without Isaiah Pacheco, or this new Bills pass rush that is finally, after a million reiterations, is finally playing super strong.
Mm-hmm. So I look at this offense and I feel like that this is going to be a big test for the D. Like last week was encouraging, especially with how we were able to get the Panthers to move away from the running game by itself. But with Pacheco out, their next leading rusher is Patrick Mahomes. Yes, I suppose maybe you could use Kareem Hunt. He's more like a red zone guy. And they have some rookie, I guess, who's pretty speedy too. I am not too familiar with his game. I don't think they've utilized him a lot. But
he'll be the next Adrian Peterson, by the way. He'll debut this upcoming week. He'll be the next coming of LP or
probably.
Whatever. Guaranteed.
He's gonna be a future Hall of Famer, and if not, then I'm sure Breece Hall is probably gonna come in. If not, but so I look at this team, and you would assume that they should be relatively one-dimensional, and from what I have been looking at, like when you look at how fast all the wide receivers are out on the field, you would say, hey, you know what? Like, we just got to run zone because we don't have the horses to run with these guys. Not the case. All right. Patrick Mahomes destroys zone, man. He is the best quarterback in the NFL against zone. Have you ever watched the game and saw Travis Kelce with his own zip code downfield? Yeah. Guess what?
Monday night last week.
Those teams are running zone. So my thing is that I'm hoping Buffalo really focuses a bit on man coverage. I wish Shaq Thompson was able to play. I really wish he was. My ideal linebacker tandem and nickel is Shaq Thompson and Matt Milano. And in base, moving Terrell Bernard to off ball. All right. And having Shaq right in the middle. But unfortunately, we're going to have Bernard back out there on Sunday in that situation. But I'm curious, what are you guys thinking is our best bet in slowing down this Chiefs offensive attack? Kev, go ahead.
I think you nailed a little bit of it there to start on the top. It's coverage rates. The Bills played a lot of man and actually had a really good rate against Travis Kelce to the point where, is he going to retire? Was he done? But this new resurgence of this Chiefs passing game, that was awful last year. Like, of course you have Patrick Mahomes, so it can only be so bad. But for Andy Reid led team, it wasn't great. And I think even their fans would admit that. I've heard them admit it. It was one of their worst offenses that they've had in quite some time. So I think ultimately, when you fast forward to this year, they have their weapons back. They're not even really using Hollywood Brown now. They're really getting Rashee Rice involved. I think it's going back to that man coverage. And of course, Patrick Mahomes is going to find running lanes. It's going to be frustrating, but he's Patrick Mahomes. We're not sitting there talking about Andy Dalton, even though I was told he's better than Bryce Young, by the way, last week. Here you're going to hear about Patrick Mahomes and what he's going to be able to do against any coverage. Patrick Mahomes, like, there's no magical coverage you can run that shuts down Patrick Mahomes. And at times, most of the time, even Josh Allen or Joey Burrow or whoever you want to pick. But that's why they're in that echelon of tier one. They're in that echelon for a reason. And they're good against most coverages. They probably have positive EPAs against most coverages. But I still think a man zone combination is a good look. A cover two man, he hasn't faced a lot this year. Would be an interesting option. And cover one, I think it's his worst coverage that he faces, but he's good against everything. So we're going to have to deal with some 12-yard Patrick Mahomes runs that are going to be frustrating. We're going to yell at McDermott. We're going to yell at Babbage. We're going to yell at Milano. But ultimately, it's because it's Patrick Mahomes, and that's what the coverage dictates. And you're hoping that you get off the field even with some 5 to 15-yard Patrick Mahomes runs. You'd still rather have that than other things that they could do. But I know they're down on Isaiah Pacheco. I still think he's a pretty good running back. I think he gets too much heat. I think he runs really hard. I know he's not quite the top end or middle end guy that you look for in a running back, but he's so good. And I think that that's still a fair loss for them. And I don't buy the Kareem Hunt. I buy him in the red zone. He will score touchdowns. He's kind of their touchdown vulture. He is useful in the red zone, but he just he's not game-breaking talent that stresses me. And Brashard Smith, we'll see if he's better than those two. Why isn't he playing? So we'll find out this weekend if he actually is better than Isaiah Pacheco. It's the same thing I heard last week with Dalton being better than Bryce Young. Is Brashard Smith better than Isaiah Pacheco? We'll find out that on Sunday afternoon as well. But ultimately, cover one or a cover two man, slow him down. They have a good game plan for Travis Kelce. They have recently. Rashee Rice is going to win some battles, guys. But I'm interested to see. We talked about this last week, and we bullied them to play Max Harrison. Will he finally get the reps against Xavier Worthy? Not the full reason he was drafted, but against the Jalen Waddles, etc. He'll get him in back-to-back weeks. Will we see that speed-on-speed matchup? It's going to be an interesting first test, and I think that he showed well against the Panthers. So I'm very happy he got the snaps he did, and I think it's time to give him 40 snaps this week.
Just give that man 70% of the snaps out there. You know what I mean? And throw Trey White when we have some sort of cushion offensively. Zebot, what do you got? How do we slow down this Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid-led offense?
Well, I'd like to see them be able to channel a little bit what Washington was able to do early in the first half of that game last week. 2 consecutive drives where Mahomes throws an interception. Now, that's obviously not a trend, but if the Bills are able to pick off Mahomes here, which they have been able to do in the past, they've been able to turn over Mahomes far more than the Chiefs have been able to turn over Josh Allen. I think if they're able to force a turnover in this game, that could flip it. You go back to Monday night, Washington versus Kansas City. They turned it over twice, and Washington just didn't have the offense to be able to capitalize on it. And we know in this game, it really, I mean, even Mahomes said it himself. He said it feels like every game comes down to one play. That's how we all feel. I mean, in reality, outside of a couple of these games, they really all have come down to one play. Both these teams right now pretty good in terms of the turnover differential. The Chiefs better than the Bills. They're at +5 right now. Buffalo at +2, which is a little bit unprecedented for them. Usually they're a lot better in that department, but the Chiefs have been forcing turnovers. So the Bills can't allow them to get a leg up in that department. That to me seems like one area. If the Bills are able to win in that spot, they might be able to have a better chance at winning the football game here. The interesting thing about Pacheco being out, I wonder how much it affects the rushing offense. You mentioned it. Mahomes really has been a bulk share of their rushing offense, far more than he really ever has been in the past. I was kind of shocked to see that they're a top 10 rushing offense. I would not have anticipated that just based on how you watch them. It doesn't feel like that is what they're based around, and it really isn't what they're based around. So that's why it was a bit shocking to me that they're at about 130 yards per game on the ground. It just kind of goes to show you what Mahomes has been able to do in that department. But perhaps the best way to shut down this offense in this game is by utilizing James Cook to the fullest on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, we talk about it all the time. It's cliche, but it's true. When you're going against two quarterbacks like this, the ability to keep the opposing quarterback off the field is crucial. And then I go back to even last week against the Carolina Panthers. You're going against Andy Dalton, but the Bills' ability to get a lead in that game and sustain it really was able to change what the Panthers had to do. What they wanted to do going into that game was, of course, ground and pound it with one of the best rushing attacks in the NFL. With the Bills' ability to force an early turnover, get out to an early lead, and then build on that lead, it changed what Carolina was able to do, changed what they wanted to do. So to me, I think that the ground game needs to be pivotal in this one, not just because of the ability to keep Mahomes off the field, but also because I think it sets up play action in which the Kansas City Chiefs are atrocious at defending. So if you're able to kind of blend those two things together, not only do I think it benefits the Bills' defense, but it also benefits the offense. The one other thing that's concerning in this one is that we saw how great the Bills were at getting after Andy Dalton this past week, but the Chiefs are unbelievable in the pass game in terms of going up against pressure. It's constantly a pick your poison against these guys. And you can say the same thing you can ask Steve Spagnuolo. He'd say the same thing, really. I mean, he's cornered. He's backed into a corner much like McDermott is, in the sense that there's not a whole lot you can do to shut these guys down. So I look at this. Both teams are probably going to get their points. I think Josh Allen's going to have one of his better games of the season. I do inevitably think this one comes down to a play or two, much like the rest of them do. Will it go in the Bills' favor? It has 4 out of the 5 times in the regular season. Will it again this upcoming week? This one's bigger than those in the past. You really could argue that. So I'm hoping it does on Sunday afternoon.
So what do you got on this, Jake? How does the defense slow down Patrick Mahomes?
Well, when you look at this Kansas City Chiefs offense, right now they're firing on all cylinders. Coming into this game, their last 5 games, they have 28 or more points in each of those 5 games. When you look at this Bills defense, last week, holding the Carolina Panthers to 9 points, that's great, going up against Andy Dalton, someone who he's kind of like a statue in the pocket, especially at this point in his career. But 7 sacks, that's a great thing to have. You're not going to get that against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. You're not expecting to get that. But Mahomes, he will take sacks. In 2 of his last 3 games, he's taken 3 sacks. So without sending too many blitzes, without pressuring too much and exposing more areas of the field to offensive weapons for Patrick Mahomes, I want to see the Buffalo Bills be able to disrupt number 15, get in the backfield, and make sure you contain things, because the Kansas City Chiefs have a lot of offensive weapons. Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Travis Kelce, and there's others. But none have a greater impact than number 15 on that field. You got to disrupt him in order to slow down this Kansas City Chiefs offense.
Let's get it done. Let's get it done. Maybe Joey Bosa can get a taste of home, right? Has some favorable matchups. Perhaps we will see what's going on with that. Anyway, the Kansas City Chiefs offense, at least last week, had a slow start. If I remember correctly, I think they only had 7 points on the board going into the half, and then obviously they turn it on. I think the best thing that we can do is that this Buffalo Bills offense can start consistently and move as aggressively as humanly possible to get a lead early, and then hope that they follow that exact same trend so the defense can sort of play to the script, if you will. Now, when it comes into the Bills offense, I sort of look at it from a formation sense. I looked on Sumer Sports through the Sumer brain, Kev, as you ultimately ended up pointing out to me. I'm not sure if this is accurate. It may be, but the Buffalo Bills haven't been running a lot of 12-man personnel this year. According to Sumer brain, it said that the Bills have only been running about 5% of the time out of 12-man personnel. A lot of 11, a lot of 21, some 13 is sprinkled in there. Why I'm focusing on that is I believe that 12-man personnel should be implemented a bit more than it has already this season, largely because I feel like that we need to force this Kansas City Chiefs defense into base, because the Buffalo Bills are far more efficient against base coverage so far this season. I think that there are a couple of guys that can be picked on. So between Nick Bolton and between Connor, who is their nickel guy, he's a safety in base coverage. Both of them are allowing passer ratings well over 100, like all season long. Both of them are. So that's why I think it spells into the fact why they struggle against slot receivers. I mean, it's a matchup game. I imagine this is a Khalil Shakir type game. I believe this is a Dalton Kincaid type game, as long as you have favorable matchups with Bolton right in the middle. This defense, or this secondary on the Chiefs, is good, but I think some of their metrics that drag them down are due to both of those two players. So, like Z-Bot hinted at as well, they're awful in play action. Like, not really many reps. I think it was like 59 plays they've had to play against. They did end up putting BTA on the Detroit Lions, who run the 3rd most play action in the league. But I suppose with a lead like they had on the Lions, you have to sort of change up your script. If Buffalo can start by forcing them to get into base, run that 12-man, I think that this could finally be a game where we look at the pass attack and we're like, holy hell, finally we figured it out. Thoughts on that? How do we take care of this defense? Let's start with Z-Bot on this one.
Yeah, man. I mean, the thing with the Chiefs right now is the last 3 games. I mean, the last 5 games, they've scored 28 plus. I mean, if you remember last year, they didn't crack 30 until they played the Bills in the AFC Championship. 4 of the last 5, they've had 30 plus. 5 of the last 5, 28 plus. But their 3 previous games, not only are they putting points up on the board, they're also stifling the opponent too. The Raiders, 0 points. Commanders, 7 points. The interesting one, though, the Lions, with only 17, right? I mean, you would imagine the Bills, in terms of, at least historically, they're more comparable to the Lions offense than that of the Commanders or the Raiders, especially the Commanders in their current state right now. This defense, it has shown slight signs of not being exactly what it once was in terms of them being one of the best defenses in the NFL, but they're still closer to that than not. And now you're factoring in what they're doing offensively. This team's really coming together. I'm imagining the Buffalo Bills are going to need around 30 points to win this football game. I would be shocked if this one ends up finishing in like a 24-20 type style. One, because I just don't think that the Chiefs are going to be trying to run the football as much as maybe other teams would be against Buffalo. Their passing attack right now has been on fire. We saw it on Monday night. And if Travis Kelce is able to have a similar night to that, I mean, he's had more than 40 yards in just about every game this year. And I know that's not a ton, but when you're also factoring in Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy, this is really opening up right now for Patrick Mahomes, who's also scrambling extremely well. Number one fantasy quarterback in the NFL. So the Bills offensively are really going to have one of their better performances in this game. But outside of the Ravens game, where their defense is not nearly as good, in my opinion, as that of the Kansas City Chiefs, we're going to have to see it to believe it. I mean, they really have not had a overly dominant offensive game other than, of course, this past week where James Cook went off. This feels like a game where Josh Allen's really going to need to silence some of the criticism that's come out over the last couple of weeks. And it's right criticism. I mean, it's fair criticism over the last couple of weeks. Despite whether or not they want to admit it in the building that this pass offense hasn't had its struggles, it certainly has. And I don't think that they can afford to have those struggles this upcoming game. So this, to me, it's a major bounce back spot for Josh Allen, because you're going up against a team that you're more than likely going to have to go up against in the postseason yet again. And you're going up against a team right now that's standing in the way of your best opportunity in years to acquire the 1 seed. Plus, the more you continue to stack losses with New England's schedule, the tougher it winds up being to be able to kind of gain ground on this division. So looking at the offense, I'm hoping the goal is to do what they did last week. Maybe they don't have as much success, but I would love to see it still continue to go through James Cook until teams are proving that they're going to be able to stop that. But in addition to that, we talked about the play action situation, and I'm just really hoping that there's an emphasis on that. If you are able to get James Cook going the way he has been in the majority of these football games this season, that is a major benefit to this Buffalo Bills passing offense against the defense, who has really struggled in that department. And I would also like to see more incorporation in the pass game with the running backs as well in this upcoming football game. You know the challenges that Spags poses, and this defense has been playing awfully well as of late. And you combine that with the offense. I mean, in reality, the Bills are getting the toughest test any team can get right now. You're playing the best football team in the NFL. I know the argument can be made for the Colts, and there's part of me that wants to agree with that, but that's not over a long sample size. We know what this Chiefs team is and what they have been. So it's just a massive spot. We talked about this last week. It's not necessarily a need to win to prove that type spot. I think it's a need to win in terms of the 1 seed and maybe the division. But I just want to see this offense against a defensive coordinator who's been terrific against this team. I would love to see the Bills' ability to come out and have Josh Allen have one of his best performances of the season. That, to me, is the main way the Buffalo Bills win this football game.
So you want to know my biggest fear? That Joe Brady and Josh Allen sort of want to help Keon Coleman have a revenge game based off of what Steve Smith said about him, like yesterday.
How about that, by the way? That was like a full 25-minute podcast on that topic.
Yeah, it was a roast. Yeah, it was a roast of Keon Coleman and everything. Dude, I pray that they're not like, all right, Keon, now we're going to show them 70% of all targets on Sunday. That's not the game plan. All right, that's not the game plan. Kev, talk to me, man. Go ahead.
I mean, maybe it was a calculated payment for Steve Smith to get him going or something. I don't know. Maybe it was a Bills payment. Maybe it was a Chiefs payment. You never really know where that could end up leading in that conversation. But I think that there's plenty of areas of strength as you look at this Bills team. Like what will the Chiefs offensive line? They have some of their own issues. Obviously, they have a guard, a really solid, talented guard with back spasms. So that will play a role, in my opinion. Is he back in full strength? They have a left tackle that's MIA right now. They've had mixed results across the offensive line. That's always been a issues in the recent regime there. So will that end up mattering against the Bills' high-flying defensive line? That's what I have myself asking. And by the way, yes, that is the amount they've been in 12 personnel. However, the Bills use 2 tight ends in many sets, 2+ tight ends in many sets. They're in 22. They're in a ton of different formations that would involve either 2+, so 13. They're in, I think, 22 in the most in the league at 15%, I believe. So that's probably what's eating in. So if you really look at it, it's 16% or 60% of the time in 11 personnel and 40% of the time in some form of 2
Some
tight
form of
ends.
okay, cool.
Yeah. So it's really a lot. It's just spread. Instead of being all sitting in the 12 personnel bucket, you're going to get a 22 personnel bucket or the different 13 personnel buckets, which would just be a third tight end. Or with Reggie Gilliam on the field, 13, they run a lot too. So there's mixing and matching of 21 personnel, which is the 2 running backs, 1 tight end. So, and as we heard Greg Olsen break down and who I personally thought he did a phenomenal job of breaking down the ball. I like him more than Dan Orlovsky. I'd like to put that out there. But as you look at it from a perspective of all different positional alignments, the Bills have been, the thing that people probably don't want to hear is Brady's in the top of the league in personnel formation disguises. And he's also in the top of the league in scripted play. So where Josh, I think Z-Bot brought that up a couple weeks ago, where he's been efficient, truthfully been more efficient. And it's actually Josh that's leading himself into more sacks, and he's been bad off script, and he's been bad in certain situations where he's been leading into sack rates. I think he's double the sack rate this year than he had in previous year per pressure. Usually the best in the league. Now he's in league average. So there's definitely some things leading to that. And I think that's what led to more in script last week. So, I mean, all I can go on is off the data that the Bills offense has been fairly good. It was actually fairly good for most of the year. They've had some struggles. I think this is where you see it. Like, will they hold plays back? I don't think so. I don't think you can officially say that anymore. Though they ran the same crack toss all game last week and then put a variation in on it. Guess what happened when they put a variation in on it, guys? Ran for a touchdown. So ultimately, I think there's a little bit to the Chiefs style of, dude, this is October football right now. We got bigger visions. And I think when the offensive coordinators decide to utilize playbooks like this all-time game today, on Sunday, I think we'll start to see a little bit better of offenses, what teams can do. And Yak is just as important as separation. Like, I know we don't think it is, and I know that that's just like some grandiose like gesture that it's not. Yak and Rack are what the Bills focus on for many off seasons, and now that's what they have. And now we're asking for separation. So it's just a different variation of style of football, and it's all cyclical. So I don't think that separation is necessarily better than Yak and Rack, and I don't think that Yak and Rack is necessarily better than receiver separation in terms of, are they open? Can I just make a dime throw? I think that Josh prefers, and this is our quarterback, not Kevin. I think the quarterback prefers Yak and Rack, and that's the style of offensive receivers he likes. I don't know what else to say other than that.
And so it reminds me of like a couple of years ago where, like, when Stephon Diggs was in his prime on this team, one of the biggest complaints of this fan base was like, oh, we can't create any yards after the catch.
Exactly. None.
And now we traded it. And now we traded it for no separation.
Exactly what they did.
So having no Yak and all the separation wasn't enough to get us to the Super Bowl. And having all of the Yak and no separation, exact same results. Let's find that happy medium, baby.
Man,
Jake, talk to me, man. All right. Like, what does this Buffalo Bills offense need to do to hit a home run against this defense, man? Talk to me.
Well, the Kansas City Chiefs are allowing 4.4 yards per carry this season against the run in 2025. And that presents a good matchup for number 4 in Buffalo's backfield, James Cook. James Cook, I've been banging this drum all season long. Let James Cook. I want to see the Buffalo Bills let James Cook again, because when you look at what happened against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, James Cook's stat line, 13 carries, 85 yards, a pair of touchdowns, averaging 6.5 yards per carry, but he only got 13 rushing attempts. I think you got to hand the ball off to James Cook more. Feed James Cook in this game. And in a regular season matchup last year, back in Buffalo, when the Buffalo Bills won, Josh Allen had that long run, 4th and 2. James Cook, a pair of touchdowns in that game as well. I want to see the Buffalo Bills let James Cook utilize the quarterback's legs, and the more that you can rush the ball, you prevent some mistakes, and you control the clock, which also keeps the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. So let James Cook here in Week 9 against the Kansas City Chiefs.
So I saw something strange. It's because QB1 has been under fire like this season, right? Where people are saying, hey, you know what? Like, he's not doing all too well. Like, he's not passing the eye test. And so I was able to pull up the numbers where I saw his first 7 games in 2024 and his first 7 games in 2025. And it's basically aligned, right? It's basically aligned. He's thrown for slightly more yards. He has a better completion percentage. He has more interceptions. But then I started diving deeper. And the big thing where the regression is his efficiency when targeting wide receivers. I'm curious, based off of y'all's perceptions, is this a scheme thing from Joe Brady? Is this a scheme thing? Because, like, when you think about it, like, maybe outside of Matt Collins, I feel like we still have all of the key contributors to this, like, wide receiving room. Like, maybe you could say, yeah, like, Matt Collins is not here anymore. Same thing with Amari Cooper, although that he was hurt for the vast majority of the season already. Like, what are the key differences here that you are seeing as into why we've seen such a drop off? And keep in mind, as far as like box score stats as well, like, again, still aligned. Like, maybe Yak is keeping up for it for total yards and total touchdowns, but it's literally the exact same thing. So what are y'all's thoughts as into like why it's not nearly as efficient and why we've seen such a drop off with that?
No, I think there's several things here. Just watching, down to down. I think one, Allen's holding on to the ball a little bit too long. I think he's bailing out of the pocket a little bit too early. This pass protection has been extraordinary. From snap to snap, the pass protection is about as good as it gets. And we all know how it's been in the run department as well. The thing is, they're taking advantage of it in the run game. Right now in the passing department, not necessarily. I also think that in terms of the scheme, the one thing that's noticeable is the majority of the scheme is conducive to getting the ball out almost immediately within a 5-yard span. I mean, that's the majority of these plays, whether they're screens or they're intermediate routes before the sticks. That seems to be the bulk share of this offense. Now, that's fine, except when you're not getting Yak consistently and when you're not getting the ball on target consistently, all of a sudden, you find yourself in these long third to go situations, right? Where we've noticed that the Bills are running the ball almost exclusively on first down, then throwing it almost exclusively on second down. So when we're looking at the pass offense in particular, it feels like right now it's trying to blend together with that run game. And the only problem is that there isn't a whole lot beyond the sticks. That's what I'm noticing. And when there is stuff open, it's not being hit on a consistent level. I feel like that there's things being opened up because of the intermediate game. Teams aren't anticipating it. You add the run efficiency into this as well. There are moments where things open up. I mean, even in the last game, we saw Elijah Moore wide open on the left side. The ball was missed. We saw Ray Davis wide open on the left side. The ball was missed. There were a couple of reps where Keon Coleman was wide open. And, Josh Allen looks his way, then looks off of him. I've been noticing a lot of the reads tend to be one read. And this is often on these quick throws where it's destined to go to one guy on the majority of these snaps. We watched last year and we've seen in part this year. I don't mind the dink and dunk. I really do. I mean, Tom Brady, you could argue, won 6 Super Bowls or whatever it was, playing this very similar style of passing offense, right? But you have to be incredibly efficient with it. And I think that the efficiency for the Buffalo Bills in this department has been a bit lesser than that of last year, at least optically. I know the numbers line up, and you look at EPA and Joe Brady's offense in nearly every category is top 10. Most of those categories top 5. But I love that meme of the dude who does the retail skits, and he goes, "What do your eyes say?" And I don't know. Lately, my eyes have been telling me that it just doesn't seem like it is fluid enough to be relied upon to consistently move the ball down the field. What has been is the rushing attack. I look at the snap to snap. The one thing the main criticism I have with the scheme is that the majority of the plays seem as though they're meant to be short yardage. Now, you can criticize that if you want, and I think the main reason to criticize that is that it's not necessarily working as well as maybe it once did. But I do find that the criticism on the wide receivers not being open, to me, far more often than not, there are guys open on every single play. That's just the way I've been seeing it. So I think a lot of this has to come down to Allen, and I think maybe having a little bit more trust in these guys. I know Keon Coleman hasn't earned that trust yet. Kincaid certainly has, Shakir has, and I know Palmer's hurt, but I feel like Allen might need to start risking it a little bit more. I'm not saying adopt the previous sugar high Josh Allen and force things that aren't there on a consistent basis, but I don't know if you guys are noticing this, but there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of risk when it comes to this pass offense. It does seem about as conservative as it can get. There are times where I do feel like stuff's open. It's just not the safe throw. And so then that in turn, it's not being made. A little more risk to me, I think, will wind up resulting in a little more reward here.
So do you want to see something that's going to blow your mind? So
Put
I
up
was
the Joe
trying
Brady
to figure
chart.
out, like, was trying to figure out, like, all right, like something has to give. All right. If same yards, same efficiency, what's going on with these wide receivers? My first instant thought was maybe we're not getting enough yards after the catch. All right. Maybe a slight downturn, 6.84 in 24, 4.79 in 2025. Average depth of target to exclusively wide receivers, 10 and 9.
Yeah, it's not the A-dot.
So it really only boils down to one problem.
Let me tell you. Let me prove it. Right. So if you can hate me or you can hate numbers, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna stay consistent with them. They're not always right. There is an eye test element, but the eye test isn't there either. The thing that's there is back. You're thinking of bias of past play for Josh Allen. It's what you're thinking or what you're considering, or 13 seconds or whatever you see in your head. But one thing, and this is proof of it, right? In week 8, the Bills won, right? They won handedly. And the thing that we heard was the passing game wasn't great, or we didn't explosives or misses or whatever you've heard or whatever terms people want to use in that scenario. The Bills still won. I'm not one person to care or complain about this, but let me tell you why your eye tests are off. Because the Bills are third worst in the league. But who was behind them? The Panthers. But the Bills were third worst in the league last week in completion percentage over expectation and the expectation of how well the play was supposed to go. So let me tell you why that matters. It matters because what your eyes are showing you is that phenomenon where you're expecting it to look better. Pass rate over expected. It's literally average play, what you think should happen with the open receivers. This proves there's open receivers. You're expecting a certain level of play and what you're expecting from a play call and what you're expecting from open receivers. The Bills were negative 6.2 in that, which finished third worst in the league, only behind Andy Dalton and the team at the Bills. So actually, believe it or not, Dalton should have played better in terms of, but the Bills frustrated him and did things on their own that clearly we don't have to talk about the defense at the moment. But the main point is Josh Allen, negative 6.2 for reference. Let me use the Packers were plus 9.2, third best in the league in terms of what it was supposed to look like. And that's your eye. This is literally a compilation of your eye test. Like, what do you think should happen on a play based on EPA, based on separation, based on a lot of, and this is just the passing. This doesn't involve the running game. This was third worst in the league in week 8. So you're seeing that phenomenon with your eyes that it's not linking up, and it's mainly due to misses in the receiving game. It's not separation. That's not what's leading to some of the issues that you're seeing. Mm-hmm. Could always use a receiver one, guys, but I wanted to break down that phenomenon on what you're seeing. And now the Bills are like 9th or 10th because of like some of these, they keep down ticking. And the CPOE is not good. I've already stressed that Josh Allen in the last 2 weeks prior to the Panthers game during the bye, he was 23rd in the league with EPA plus CPOE. That equals losses. And that is there's no perfect quarterback stat. There isn't. You got to use your eyes. You got to use this data. Yeah. It's not PFF grades though. But you have to remember, like, you're seeing this phenomenon, which is interesting. Why I point to this chart. They've ran the data, guys. The Bills' passing offense was the third worst in the league per expectation. And where it was supposed to be a lot higher based on the play call and a lot of the other factors individually in the game. So it's really interesting when you break that all down, how it turns out to look for an offense. But I wanted everybody to kind of think about that for a second. And we can probably play the chart or post a chart somewhere if you want to see it. But the Bills were supposed to be a lot better than they were. And we're seeing it with our eyes. And unfortunately, some of these stats do point to the quarterback or whoever's at the helm.
Yeah. Down to the right. People suggest, or we should go after this guy or that guy or this guy. For example, right now, his next statistics, Keith Coleman is averaging of separation, where to a lot of people excited at 0.9. Now, I get that they bring different things and talent and separation. Just
Dan's been compromised for this
Is that
information.
Dan?
Getting out
Oh,
to the
I was
masses.
like, I hope it wasn't me. Okay.
But so I know it's give me your 3 players you supposed to target the trade deadline, and then also give me a final score for the Buffalo Bills and Kansas City Chiefs game, and I can get you out of here.
Dan, you're yazzing out. But like when it comes to like we couldn't see most of what you said there. But I think you're asking 3 potential trade targets for the Bills. Is that right?
Yeah, I was saying that. And then Z-Bot, I know you need to leave in a couple of minutes, so also include your Chiefs and Bills final score prediction.
Okay. Gotcha.
Sorry, guys.
You're good. I think Budda Baker could be up there. Will they do anything at safety? I think you're looking at the receiver room and you're saying, will they actually make a move? Is it just Gabe Davis? But I'll just go with I like Jacoby Myers. I think that his separation, what he's able to do, can be I like that comment. Could be pretty useful. And then you're going to look at defensive line. I think they need to influx somebody on the defensive attack. Could they go for Sexy Daxy? Could they do something big like that? I don't know, but it's not crazy that you could continue to bolster this defensive tackle unit, and maybe that's the only move you make. But like a Calais Campbell obviously makes natural sense. Are you going to call Arizona for something? And I'm going to go against the grain this week, guys. I'm normally, I think all games this year, I picked the Bills. I have to pick the Chiefs in this game because I'm hoping for some sort of difference when it comes to playoffs. And when it happens, like I just think the Chiefs are ticking on all cylinders. They are missing Pacheco, but the Bills, they're not fully. I mean, Josh Palmer could matter a lot in this game. There's a couple of things that could really help. But the defensive performance and the defensive line will call this game. If they can beat the tackles, Mahomes doesn't usually lose to edge pressure except the Super Bowl. But if he does, that is advantage Bills. But I got this one being another great game. But I do have it going to the Chiefs, 27-24, with them stopping Josh Allen again with the ball in his hands, leading to the Bills needing to play an uphill battle to get back in front of the division.
So not unless Michael Penix can go out there and just be Michael Penix from week 5. You know what I mean? That would be ideal. Z-Bot, top 3 players you would like the Bills to target at the trade deadline in an ideal world, and a final score prediction for the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, the Budda Baker rumor being tossed around is certainly interesting. That's something I would like to explore. And then the wide receiver situation is something I'd also like to explore. I mean, I do think that right now the issues are within house. I don't know if the solution for that is external right now. I mean, obviously it would get better with better receivers. And I think if they're able to bring one in, that would have some noticeable improvement. To what degree, though, that would be what I would be interested in. But, Kevin mentioned it. Jacoby Myers to me is something that's doable and something that I would be interested in. One of the 2 wide receivers out in New Orleans, whether it's Olave or Shaheed, I would also be interested in to some extent as well. But the wide receiver position to me, you could basically pencil in 3 players. I mean, we saw the Bills do it last year. They were willing to give up a 3rd round pick for Amari Cooper. And even though he couldn't stay healthy, it did seem to bolster this offense, and they wound up going on a massive run after that. I would like to see an addition made. I don't know how extravagant it will be, but I would like to see an addition made to the wide receiver core by the time Tuesday comes to an end. In terms of this game on Sunday, the Chiefs are humming right now. Like I said, I think the Colts are the best team in the league, but based on history and based on what the Chiefs are now putting together that they weren't able to last year, I think we can all make an argument that the Chiefs are the best team in the league, and they're catching a Bills team right now that needs to prove to me that they're able to beat a team like Kansas City this season. We've seen it many times before, right? If the Bills are to win, they will now be 5-5, Mahomes and Allen against each other, which is crazy. And of course, Mahomes and the Chiefs have won the ones that have mattered the most, but regardless, they've played each other. This will be the 10th time. If the Bills win, it will be dead even, which is crazy. But The Chiefs are just playing better football consistently right now. I also think that they have it going on both sides of the ball, and I can't say the same right now for Buffalo. Yes, they have the run game going. Yes, we saw the defensive line really step up a week ago, but I need to see it more consistently, and I need to see the resurrection of this pass game. So unfortunately, I have the Bills losing this one 33-24, but I hope I'm wrong, and I really do hope that this is the Sunday where we can come on here Tuesday and say, man, that is the pass offense we've been waiting for. That is the pass offense we needed, and we got it in a game that was as massive as this one. So hoping I'm wrong, fellas, for sure.
What do you got, Jake?
For offensive trade targets, I'd go with Brian Thomas Jr. from the Jacksonville Jaguars and Chris Olave from the New Orleans Saints, two guys who can line up as wide receivers and both be instant impact players for the Buffalo Bills. And defensively, Budda Baker, that rumor's been going around, and I think it would be nice to, explore some safety options. Then score prediction. We got a bunch of downers here today picking against the Bills. And admittedly, I picked the Kansas City Chiefs when we did this prior to the season. But I'm not going to go down that road here. I believe in my team. Call me crazy. I know the Kansas City Chiefs, they're balling out right now. And they're justified to be the favorites, even on the road. I'll give you a stat here. Josh Allen, as a home underdog, only has one loss in his career, and that loss is to the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's bet against that this weekend. Let's go, Bills.
Damn.
Give me the Buffalo Bills by a score of 31-27.
If they're not third in CPOE, if they're not third in expected passing, or third to last, I think Jake's got a real chance at it. But I think we got to go with the reverse psychology and hopefully switch this puppy up because stop winning regular season games.
Yeah, I'd be down
switch the puppy up, man. For me, I would love Brian Thomas Jr., right? I mean, it's kind of, like he hears footsteps in the middle of the field. I think he's afraid of contact, but
he is. He's afraid of contact.
But and so I think that he could be interesting. Sleeper pick. Now, I would love for Buffalo to get this young man. I think that he is actually dealt at the deadline. I can't guarantee that he's going to be on the Buffalo Bills, but I think he's going to be a shocking trade at the deadline. Jordan Addison from the Minnesota Vikings.
You've been on that one.
I think that he's going to be on the move. I would love for Brandon Beane to put his hat into the ring. I mean, we've had a relationship with Minnesota in the past. The way I kind of look at Jordan Addison's contract, I think you already have one of the highest paid wide receivers in your cap. You still eventually want to grow with JJ McCarthy. I think that they're not trying to go the Bengals route and add that fifth-year option right with Jordan Addison and extend him to some mega contract as well. I think that they want to be a bit more well-balanced than that. So with Jordan Addison would be an absolute dream if, for example, he is available and if, for example, we have Beane actually make the move. I suppose I'll be okay with Jacoby Myers. Surprisingly enough, he's the most expensive option. He's the most expensive option out of many of the names we've already talked about. $5 million against the cap. So Beane would have to make some cap moves in order to make it work. So opposed to some of those other names we just mentioned. God, you know what, dude? I have PTSD.
Less asset though. Less asset cost. You don't have to probably give up the asset cost of obviously like a Jordan Addison or even a BTJ.
Yeah. True.
If you can get him on a rookie contract, though, that's huge. That's huge.
Oh, yeah. And say that Miami's dumb enough to send Waddle our way, too. I would.
Yeah, that's the no-brainer if they're that dumb.
Send those first-round picks over there. We'll see.
That's a no-brainer. If they're really going to start to sell before they go to a new regime, they could. They're going to. It's been official. They're going to trade their DN. So those are going to probably see a vastly different team next week to talk. So we'll be able to talk about a little bit of that.
Yeah. We'll be good. Dude, as far as a prediction, good God, man. And so I have a bit of PTSD because last time Kevin picked the Chiefs was the playoffs last year, and he was right. I had him on this show, and we were talking about it, and he picked the Chiefs to win. And Kev's actually pretty good with predicting the outcome of the Bills and the Chiefs games, all right? You're on a heater, right, Kevin? Have you accurately predicted every single matchup for the past, 3 years?
Chiefs? Probably, yeah. And the Bills-Chiefs matchups, yeah. Other teams hang me up, but the Bills-Chiefs matchups.
So you predicted the Bills win last year in the regular season?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Fuck, dude. So I'm going to side with Jake.
There it is.
Side with Jake.
2-2. Gotta go to
I am
overtime.
going to pick the Buffalo Bills to win a close game. I think that we see an improved passing attack. Like I said, I think that for some reason, like with QB1, just plays very well against this team. He plays very well against this team for some odd reason. I think the defense is going to be improved. I think we hold the Chiefs under 30, and we'll go 31-28. One more point for the Chiefs than Jake gave them. So 31-28. What's like even more interesting, I hope Prater's okay. We'll see if he can, swing it, or otherwise we're going to be just welcoming in some college kid. But besides that, folks, thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Bills Roundtable. Go Bills, and we'll see you here on Monday, hopefully for a victory.
Trade deadline Monday, too.
Trade deadline Monday as well. We'll see y'all soon.